This drum pad costs $130, and to be honest with you, I did not expect much from this. But what shocked me is that it works really well with Ableton Live. I set this up to control my set list during a live show, and it just worked. No crosstalk, no double triggering, and just a single cable is required. This thing might actually be worth it. So in the past, I did a video on the cheapest electronic drum pad you could buy on Amazon, and that was actually a really popular video for me. This is gonna be a lot cheaper than that one. We're looking at around $130 for this. As of 2025, this is now the cheapest drum sampling pad you can get on Amazon. So as I'm editing here, I'm realizing it's not really a drum sampling pad. It's more of an electronic percussion pad because you can't import your own sounds. And somehow I managed to forget the name of the product. This is the TD02. And it's made by a company called OYAYO. I probably am pronouncing that incorrect. So let's talk about who it's for. If I had to guess, I would say their target market is gonna be very beginner kids. This is kind of an upgraded version of those roll-up tabletop drum sets. It's also good for budget drummers who want to add electronic sounds to complement their acoustic kit. I don't think this pad is quite perfect for that, and we'll explain why later. And for people like me who are gigging a lot and we use backing tracks live, this is a perfect way to be able to control our set lists and not have to deal with the computer. This was on my radar for a long time because I had seen this pad and I really didn't know if it would work in my setup. So it weighs around 2 pounds. It's made from a sort of lightweight plastic, and it's got these big speakers in it. So that's a difference that you'll notice right away compared to other sampling pads is they don't have speakers in them. And compared to the SPD-SX and the Alesis Strike Multipad, it is a lot smaller. So right here, this is the original cheapest drum pad on Amazon. And if I hold these up, you can kind of see it is a lot smaller in size compared to the SPD-SX. There you go. It's also a lot lighter than both of these pads, so taking it in a backpack, number one, you can fit it easier. Number two, it's just gonna be a lot easier to carry around. When you're playing on it, because it is so small, these pads are really compact together, so it does feel a little bit restrictive on what you can and can't play. It's a small thing, but if you're trying to play full on drum set patterns, it's gonna feel a little claustrophobic. For me, I'm setting this up with Ableton, so I got my play button, my stop button, and then I can change which song we're on with the shoulder buttons. It's pretty simple and it works for me. As far as the sounds and internals of the unit, there's not a lot to be desired here. The sound quality of all of the presets is extremely basic. There's no editing, so we can't change the pitch, we can't change EQ, there's no reverb adjustments. You kind of get what you get, and there's no custom imports of samples, so anything custom you want to do is going to require some sort of external sound source like a laptop. This is a very basic set of inputs and outputs on the back here. We are talking an aux input, we have a headphone out, we have a speaker output. I don't know if that's stereo or mono. It ships with these pedals here for kick drum and hi-hat. By default, the hi-hat is closed, but if you use the pedal, you'll be able to get the open and closed sound. And then finally a USB cable, and that's gonna serve as our main cable for connecting to the computer or connecting to the wall outlet. So moving on to the MIDI functionality, one of my favorite things about the pad is that it's bus powered. So if you're gonna use this on a gig, you only need to use one cable to connect to your computer, as opposed to other sampling pads when you need to have a power cable and the USB cable. That's a big plus. I'm all about reducing the amount of cables that are on stage, and it works really well with the provided cable. You may need to get a dongle if you're using a MacBook Pro. But we went ahead and we opened up MIDI View, which is a software application you can run on your computer, and it just monitors what's happening inside the unit, basically, what MIDI notes are happening, and all the pads function totally normal like any other sample pad would. So you're able to go into Ableton and click the MIDI map button and map this to whatever you like. The single USB cable is probably the biggest feature here because we're not getting a lot of outputs on this unit. That is a big selling point, at least for me. When you turn the unit on, you're going to be greeted with a voice that tells you that it's in Bluetooth pairing mode.
Bluetooth mode.
Because this has speakers built into it, if you pair your phone to it, you can play any sort of music through these speakers, and the speaker quality is not great, but you can have your songs playing and you can jam along on the pads, which is pretty cool. I will say the drum sounds tend to be pretty loud in comparison to the Bluetooth connection. So what I did was I made sure my phone was turned up as loud as it could, and then I went ahead and adjusted the volume on the unit down to about 3. When I had this thing connected to the computer as well, there was some odd interference that was coming through the 2 speakers that I could hear, and it actually kind of freaked me out because I thought that there was noise coming from outside, but it was just weird interference coming out of these speakers, even though the speakers themselves were turned down all the way to 0. Any DIYers out there, you could probably take this thing apart and just remove these speakers entirely. I mean, I think that would be cool. Also, for the company, if you wanted to make another version of this product that was simpler, you could just have it be this flat part and just omit these speakers completely, because if you want to sell to professionals just a simple MIDI controller that's drum pads, I mean, I know drummers would buy that without these speakers, because these, I think that's going to be the biggest turnoff for most intermediate to professionals, is going to be that exact thing. We know a lot of professional keyboard players and producers will buy cheap MIDI controllers that don't have like a lot of features. They just need a way to get MIDI into their computer, and they want to be able to play chords. Same thing with drummers. I think there's a big market out there for somebody to create a pad, just a simple trigger pad that's just a MIDI controller. As far as mounting goes, there are screws on the back here, but they are slightly smaller than our standardized electronic pad mounts that we get for like the SPDSX and the Strike multipad. I don't know exactly where you can find a mount for this. I didn't see one listed on the website or on Amazon, so I'm assuming maybe this is in development. But if you were gonna mount this with the traditional pad mount, you'd probably have to 3D print something, or you could use a snare stand, which is probably the easiest way around this for now. I've used snare stands with the SPDSX on tour many times, and it works fine, honestly. You do get kind of annoying little claws at the bottom of your pad, but it's a good workaround. When you play the pads, there is kind of this plasticky sound you can hear. Kind of hear that clickiness. It's really not on all pads. So that's kind of a sign of the cheap feeling of while you're playing it, but for the most part, like, you can still do a lot of fast stuff. Something else I want to point out too on this is that the dynamic range of these pads is very, very limited. If I go ahead and play softly, and I'll gradually get louder. You can really tell there wasn't too much of a volume change while I was playing. I was really trying to go quiet. And it really doesn't like to pick up some of those soft hits all the time. I personally discount all of the sounds that are in this unit completely. But again, for my use case, the sounds in this unit I'm not gonna use at all, because I don't typically use external drum pads for sounds. On the unit itself, these controls are very confusing, so it does take a little bit of time getting used to it. The functionality is very basic for what you can do. There's a built-in metronome, you can change the tempo, there's some demo beat presets, a bunch of different kits you can choose from, and there's a recording option too, and you can also turn down the overall volume of the kit. There's really not a lot of customization you can do on the unit, but for $130, it's more than sufficient. So it's not exactly a pro tool, but it's not a toy either. You know, it's right above that roll-up drum set level, but it also has the capabilities to do a lot of things that I need live. And there's just not a good solution, well, I guess until now, to have just a simple way to control Ableton Live with a MIDI controller pad, a percussion pad. I really think it's a good tool for beginners testing their interest, young kids, parents of children. It's an affordable way to figure out if they're gonna continue to play. And for live use, for me, it works a lot better than I thought it was going to. If you're triggering backing tracks with Ableton Live, this might be the best budget way to get away from clicking the space bar or clicking enter on the keyboard and bending down. But overall, this is a pretty good product for being the cheapest electronic drum pad available. YouTube thinks you'll like this video next. Let me know if they're right.